This video is sponsored by the Frame-a-Majig's Kickstarter. It's another wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. We have a Commander Masters leak on our hand. There are people who feel very unhappy about deceptive marketing practices with Lord of the Rings. And on top of that, we've got claims that the One Ring has been found.
Magic.
I am a wizard!
History.
I'm an old wizard!
The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for an absolutely cram-packed installment of Mega Magic News. And let me just take a moment first to say it's good to be back. I know some people wondered where I've been. Well, I actually managed to injure my back using a piece of bacon. If you want to hear the story, I actually talk about it in a live stream over on my other YouTube channel. That's where I've been for the last week or so because I was confined to a chair. You have no idea how ingrained my arm movements are when it comes to making videos. So I was literally incapable of doing my intros and everything. So I had to sit back while the news piled up. I have a whole page full of stuff to talk about, and that's not even everything that's happening in the world of Magic. I just had to trim it down to try and keep up because I missed a lot of stuff. So let's start out right away with the Commander Masters League. This is Disrupt Decorum, which I have to admit is a very odd choice from my perspective. In terms of Commander Masters, this is your big, heavy reprint set with a lot of juicy juice. And this right here is the release promo. So if you come out to the release event for this, I assume that's how it works. If you come and play when the set releases, they're going to give you this card. And it's worthless. Like, Commander Masters is supposed to be chase the big fat reprints, and this is what they're gonna put on offer? It seems wild to me that this is the tone they want to set. But if you're wondering why we know about this ahead of time, well, this was actually sent out with Lord of the Rings shipments. It seems accidentally, but there have been multiple reports. I was even emailed pictures showing me these things. So it's 100% legit that this leak is real, and it looks like it's just somebody screwed up and went, oh, these are supposed to go with the product, but it's the next stuff, Commander Masters, because it's not going to be long before we're walking down that hallway of insane reprints. But before we turn to that, let's talk about what's going down with the One Ring, because it is creating absolute insanity in the world of Magic. The last time that we spoke, the offer was at $1 million for the thing. $1 million for a Magic card that just got printed. And it's not like it's the most powerful card ever made even, right? This is insane times that we're living in. But what's even more insane is within 24 hours of that video going out saying, yo, people will give $1 million. Now it's up to $2 million. So the hunt is on, and we already see multiple people making claims that they've got it, and on varying different levels. You've got people making joke claims who are like, check it out, I got the One Ring, and then you look and they've got 5 copies of it because people are printing out proxies, right? But there are individuals that are out there presenting them as if they've actually got the real One Ring. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the one that convinced the most people was the posting over in Brazil. I know that was brought up to me in my live streams that I was doing in the last week where they were like, hey, did you hear that the One Ring was cracked in Brazil? And I said, I'll believe it when I see it. And then when I went and looked, I immediately didn't believe it. Here's a hint, guys. When you look at somebody claiming they've got the One Ring and they show a picture of it and it's perfectly flat, guess what? Wizards of the Coast showed it to us already. It ain't perfectly flat. It's curved. And on that note, we've talked before about how, why didn't they put in some kind of ticket that you would use to exchange instead? Well, I think what they've probably done in this case is they've probably given the card some special element to its foil treatment, or maybe they've made some slight alteration to the back or something that most people aren't going to be able to see. You wouldn't be able to pick up in a picture because I don't even think we've seen the back of it, right? When Wizards showed us, they only showed the front. So there might be some slight tweak to the back. What are people going to get up in arms and be like, well, the back's different, so So if you play it in an unsleeved deck, do you know what I mean? Like there has to be some way that Wizards is going to be able to say this is authenticated as the One Ring. Otherwise, there's literally going to reach a point where we're probably going to have basically multiple people going, hey, I've got the ring, and no way to actually know who it is for real. Are you going to be able to sit down and authenticate these? Like, are they going to let you authenticate them? And the fake cards that are being made are getting better and better and better. I have seen some counterfeit Magic cards that, from cursory inspection, they absolutely pass. It's genuinely frightening how good they are at making real, well, not real, but real Magic cards from the surface, at least, right? When you get into it, they've got Black Horse. There's ways to tell still. We haven't reached indistinguishable levels. I don't think that any counterfeiters have unlocked the exact mix to figure out how to replicate the blue cores that Wizards has, because the blue cores that they use, at least for most of Magic's history, aren't actually the greatest for cardboard stock, and that's why you'll see that the counterfeiters and stuff like that, the proxy makers, they actually make better quality versions because it's difficult to replicate Magic's poor quality. That's kind of changed now in terms of Wizards has a bunch of different cores, like the Japanese printing has purple cores, and then with Ixalan, we've got no cores where they screwed up and didn't put any cores in. They had to make an announcement going, they don't have the cores in them, guys, but they're still official Magic cards because they have the holo stamp on them. So we've reached the point where a lot of authenticity indicators are gone. They're not reliable. So hopefully Wizards has put something on the card to let us know that it's the real deal. And I expect very much that Wizards is going to know, like, at least the palette, if not the case that it's in, at least the palette that One Ring is in. I doubt that it was just thrown out into the mix, because I understand that there are particular places that have collector boosters that you can't get the One Ring from. And that's actually going to tie into the next thing we're going to talk about, which is some people who feel like the Lord of the Rings Commander deck boxes have deceptive advertising. And honestly, after thinking about it and looking at the packaging, I can't really disagree with how they feel. I'm going to put it up on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, bear in mind, the only way to get the One of One Ring out of Magic the Gathering is to open in a collector booster. So, collector boosters are your target. Now, imagine you're somebody who doesn't know what a collector booster sample pack is, right? Imagine you don't know what that is, and you've just heard, hey, I want to get a collector booster to have a chance at Lord of the Rings. Oh, whoa, I can buy this whole deck based on like Frodo or whoever else, and it comes with one of these packs that a chance for Lord of the Rings. Now, anybody who's well versed in Magic and knows the products really well is going to be like, well, I mean, there's no chance of that. But understand that we're living in a time of such bafflement that Wizards of the Coast literally has bundles that have collector boosters in them, and you can't get the One Ring in those. And they're doing an entirely separate run of collector boosters that doesn't have the One Ring or any of the serialized rings in it. And it really does feel like part of the strategy has been at Wizards of the Coast to make things so confusing with where things are, special treatment here, this is only available here, extended this, foil this only here, and basically to confuse you into just scattershot buying everything so you won't miss out on things. The same way that the video game bonuses, when you're doing like a pre-order, you can't get all the bonuses by just ordering one copy of the game. Even if you try and get the Mega Ultra Deluxe, there'll be some weird crap where you have to buy another version. It's all this insane manipulation. So when I look at the top of this and I see the way it's literally collector booster is on a separate line. So if you know that you need to follow that along and it's actually all four of those make one sentence, that is some skis. And anybody who feels that they've been hosed by that, that's genuinely understandable. Like, if you don't know that collector boosters are at the price they're at, basically like 70% of a commander deck, you're going to have no concept. And you're going to walk into that and it's going to be obnoxious. So, not fair play to the people who are upset about it, not fair play to Wizards on that one. Now, I want to talk about some promos that are coming up for the regional qualifiers, starting out with this kitty Jace, all right? So, this is an offer you can't refuse, but originally this was not meant to be an offer you can't refuse. Take a look at it. This is Jace. Now, take a look at this Factor Fiction right beside it and tell me that this isn't exactly the same concept. This is the Factor Fiction Jace, but what happened is Factor Fiction is a garbage Magic card now. And Wizards of the Coast is like, bro, we got this artwork that we paid for, and we're not just going to throw it away, right? We got to find something to do with it. So somebody actually had the half-decently clever thought of, look, an offer you can't refuse. Says counter target spell, they get 2 treasures. What if the 2 dots, the 2 little gems in his hand, are the 2 treasures, and the other hand behind him is him going, I'm actually countering your spell at the same time. Here you go, have some treasure. Oops, countered your spell. So the flavor actually transmits, and I know I bag on wizards a lot for when they lazily take a card and repurpose the artwork and the flavor doesn't fit. But this is a situation where the flavor actually fits, so they do get credit for that. And the next card we're going to look at in terms of these promos is amazing. Death's Shadow looks absolutely incredible. Tell me that it doesn't, for real. You've got this figure in rags here, and it's just he's just in this wasteland, it looks like, and destruction follows in his wake in the form of a giant insectile demon. Like, if this wasn't originally meant to be Death Shadow, then this is, again, a fantastic repurposing of artwork. And the artwork itself, all by itself, is incredibly evocative. I love when a piece of artwork tells you a full-on story, and this totally does. And the other promo they're handing out is Dragonlord Silumgar, right? This is pretty solid. For regional championship level stuff, I like these choices. Silumgar is a beef boy, and from a flavor perspective, he literally has, who is it, Tassiger? He wears the previous leader of his organization as a necklace. Like, he's straight up like, no, I'm in charge. Your ornamentation on me. Like, that is next level. I've never heard of anything like that. A dragon using a human as jewelry as a symbol of their power and dominance. Like, that is epic level stuff right there. Now, I want to talk about the serialized $13,000 dwarven ring that sold, because there's 2 things that have happened at the same time that have really hammered home how insane things have gotten with Magic the Gathering. So on one hand, we have $13,000 for a serialized dwarven ring. So for each of the rings, they did a different amount. You know, it's like, I think it's isn't it 3 rings for elves? So they had 300 rings in total, 7 for dwarves, so you get 700, right? That kind of a thing. So what it is these are super limited edition, but one has already actually sold for that amount of money. And at the exact same time, there is a beta reback Lotus that was attempting to being sold for 13 grand. And if you don't know, if you want more details about that, head on over to Alpha Investments, listen to Rudy talk about it, because he went on at length about it. But for me, it's just the fact that rebacks are fakes, where somebody takes a collector edition front card where it looks like a beta, they take the back of a regular beta card, and they glue them together to create a new beta. It's obviously not a beta card, right? You gotta like scuff it up. The biggest telltale signs, because I've been hosed by one of these before, I got a beta chaos orb that was a reback, and yeah, you can look at the corners. That's the place where it's hardest to hide it. But anyways, you have a situation where this is a fake beta Black Lotus with a value of 13 grand, but it's not, the person who's selling it doesn't know that it's fake, right? So this $13,000 valuation is based on it being a real beta Lotus, and they're going to sell it for 13 grand. So 13 grand for a beta Lotus, a card from the beginning of Magic the Gathering, and 13 grand for a card that was just printed right now. This one is that value because of like basically organic growth of the game, real supply and demand, all that, and the reserve list choking off the supply. But now we have a situation where this value is being manifested instantaneously on the secondary market like a lottery ticket, which is great for goosing short-term sales. It's a very impressive thing to see on a website when you see the title. These cards are selling for these crazy values. But the problem is, the $13,000 beta Black Lotus, that's a real tree that was planted 30 years ago. And it's grown. It's organic, right? Wizards in the business now of making artificial trees. They make them. They look like real trees. From a distance, they look the same, but there's no oxygen coming from them. There's no life. There's no sustenance. It's the end. And so this serialized thing is a rocket ship into the ground. We have a situation where if you look at sports cards, apparently there are a bunch of serialized cards that are worthless. You can pick up serialized cards for a couple of bucks a piece. There's nothing that's giving them underlying value. Now, the Lord of the Rings thing, it does have a lot of sway, so it's adding a bunch of value in, but this is not sustainable. Look at the serialized cards from Brothers War. Look at all the cards they did 500s of. Like Iker Wellspring, Bonesaw, there's a bunch of garbage. That was the first foray, but we're going to keep going further and further as Wizards has to try crazier and crazier stunts to make the price of buying these boxes justifiable, right? Like, they refuse to give anything reasonable in terms of prices. Look at Commander Masters. It's a pure reprint set. It costs Wizards almost nothing to make that set compared to anything else because they don't have to design new cards. They don't need new artwork for most of the cards. And a lot of the artwork that they'll use, that's new artwork, they already paid for previous cards, and it's just repurposed. So these sets are the cheapest, and this is going to be the most expensive reprint set in Magic history. And it just gets crazier from here. So ultimately, the point I'm trying to make is we went from Wizards of the Coast caring about the game and building it to the point where it would grow organically to now, like, basically artificially making it look like they're doing the same thing, reaping short-term profits, but this is driving the game downwards and is a huge problem. They're creating this, like, you don't want to miss out effect, but it's diminishing over time, and it's not something that you're actually really going to have a problem if you miss out on. But there is something you probably will have a problem if you miss out on, and that is what today's sponsor has for you. So let's hop on over there and see what I'm talking about. My friends, a new dawn of cardboard classiness is upon us. I present to you the Frame-a-Majig, the absolute best way to present a Magic card. Forget the old days of fiddling with nonsense screw cases. You don't need that in your life. This right here is next level. We've got a solid wood frame that when you hang it on the wall adds an entire new dimension to displaying your Magic cards. On top of that, this has UV protection built in, so it'll stop the sun from cooking the art off of your cards. And if that wasn't enough, it's insanely easy to change the inner compartment. This is an absolutely amazing product. As soon as I got this first one in the mail from Thingamajigs, I sent them an email saying, can I have 10 more, please? And they said, no, we only have prototypes. You'll have to wait. But I don't want to wait, and neither should you. Imagine your life with something this amazing in it. What's that? Yes, this is a Black Lotus. What's that? Yes, I will have a baby with you. These frames really are the next level way to display your Magic cards. I'm a huge fan of them, so make sure you go to frameamajigs.com and get yourself some. They look amazing. Check this out. This is an art gallery where a ton of different cards are being displayed. You cannot deny that this looks impressive. Big thank you to Frame-a-Majigs for sponsoring this video. Make sure you get yourself some frames. To do anything else would be downright criminal. I was framed. Do I look like a criminal to you? Tell it to the judge, you criminal dingus. Oh, but I am the judge, and I judge these to be classy. You heard the judge. Go support the Frame-a-Majigs Kickstarter right now. You heard the judge. Go support the Frame-a-Majigs. You heard the judge. Go support the Frame-a-Majigs.